In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a look at some very interesting storms happening across the nation, some impactful cold fronts, some snowfall as we enter into a more winter-like pattern for the first time this season, and some Arctic air that is on the way for the eastern half of the nation that will really just completely knock off the pattern that we've had and ricochet us into something that is much closer to a late November, early December pattern from what we've been in, which is a much more October-like pattern. So we're going to kind of just skip a month and honestly go from like October to December. So let's just dive into things. We're taking a look at tomorrow afternoon, Saturday on November 16th. A lot of awesome college football happening tomorrow. It's going to be a great day. We do have snowfall across a lot of the western states here, like Washington, Idaho, Montana, Utah, down through Arizona. Same thing here, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and even the Dakotas here seeing a bit, as we do have a pretty strong low pressure center here over northern or North Dakota, I should say. We see that this low is really separating the two air masses here. We see when we look on the east side of it, very warm temperatures, and when we look on the west side of it, very cool temperatures. Again, over time, we're going to see this change. This is not going to stay this way through the pattern. Here is Sunday, and it's not changing yet, but we do see a little shift. This moves from North Dakota up into areas in south central Canada here. And what we see is that underneath of it, we do see some colder air getting pulled in, but hardly any. We still have warmer temperatures up the east coast here. The west, we're dealing with a lot of precipitation here, snowfall, rainfall happening in different parts here out west. As we keep going towards Monday on the 18th of September, this is what we're seeing is a strong low over Kansas, 986. This is a very intense one. An area that has already seen a ton of precipitation here this month is getting more. So the rich are getting richer, unfortunately. We see a warm front set up here, a little bit of a cold front maybe wanting to drag down. We're going to be watching for severe weather in this territory here, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri. So definitely something to watch out for. Showers elsewhere, definitely seeing those up here. Once we look at the northwest, we do see snowfall here for states like Washington, Oregon, California. Also the northern Rockies here, we're seeing plenty of snowfall, so be on the lookout for that. As we reach towards Tuesday on November 19th, what we're seeing is this low is now over Wisconsin. Still relatively strong, 993 here. We do see a secondary low down here by the Gulf states being a big time rainmaker here. Maybe a little bit of a tropical component. Again, this isn't a super strong low, so this would be mostly a rainmaker there for Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the panhandle of Florida there. Our much stronger low here has a dry cold front as well as a little bit of a warm front property here. So we're seeing showers and warmer weather around for some of these areas underneath the warm front. And then we see all of this cold up here just bottled up. And this is what's going to move eastward. This cold front is going to drag it in. We're also going to begin to see milder air really work its way into the southwest. And this is what's going to cause this cold to have to basically move over that towards the east. So we're going to see this happen over time. But in the meantime, we do see snowfall for Oregon, Washington, down through Idaho, Montana, Utah, Colorado, Wyoming. There's some snowfall showers still occurring here. Let's take a look at Wednesday on November 20th, and this is when things become evident. We are seeing a lot of rainfall and snowfall out here for the Northwest, so Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Idaho, Montana, snowfall, even rainfall closer to the coast. Definitely occurring. We do see cold air pouring into the central states by this point behind a low that is now kind of over the Kentucky area here. This is dragging it in. We have a lot of precipitation up here to the north as well, snowfall and rainfall depending on where you're at. I want to move us forward because we're not in a clear pattern yet by the 20th. But by the time we reach Thursday on the 21st, we get an interesting thing happening here on this model in particular. Take this with a grain of salt. This is weird. 995 here near Cleveland. And what we're seeing is an inversion in the jet stream. So we're seeing this warm air kind of pull to the north here and almost directly westward over top of the cold air, while the cold air is really circling this low underneath just like this. Very unusual. And what this does is snowfall to the south and here for areas like Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and then rainfall for Michigan, northern Indiana, Canada, New York, Pennsylvania, to the north. Highly unusual, definitely possible and has happened before, but not your most common type of storm, obviously. And if you're wondering, you might be thinking like, hey, snowfall seems, unlikely. This seems kind of weird. The Climate Prediction Center is starting to indicate some chances of snowfall after the 20th timeframe in November for areas like this, issuing slight or even moderate risks for heavy snowfall in some of these areas. Definitely near the mountain ranges in here for West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, they've issued higher risks, but surrounding areas, they have a slight risk of snowfall. So they are acknowledging this risk and starting to point it out. So, the professionals are on board with this as well. Let's take a look at Friday here on the 22nd. And this is probably the most pure Eastern cooldown frame that we're going to see today. We see brutal Arctic air working its way through the Midwest into the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic here, and even bits of the Southeast here. Brutal cold air. And we see this mild air really rising up far in the West. We see this really, really taking hold out there. We also have a storm system trying to move along this right here for the Pacific Northwest. So when we look at this one, we see rainfall to the south and snowfall to the north, how things should be for that one. Let's take a look at Friday on the 23rd, and we still have a pretty similar pattern. Cold air pouring into the east and warm air really, really taking hold of the west. So this seems to be a pretty consistent pattern here. Again, the cold air directing in just like this. We even have some further east like this as well. That's really, really what we're seeing mostly here. Snowfall still around for some of the mountainous areas in the east, again, where there's a little bit of a higher risk, according to the Climate Prediction Center. Very, very interesting. Let's take a look at Sunday on November 14th. What we see here is snow and rain showers, a little bit of a mixed bag around for most of the northeastern United States and the southwest or southeastern areas of Canada here. Some rainfall mixed in there depending on elevation or specific location, but a lot more wintry than what we've been dealing with, obviously. As we take a look at the northeast corner or northwest corner of the nation, we see rainfall for lower elevation and coastal areas, snowfall through some of the Sierra Nevada, Cascades, and Rockies there taking place. Monday here, we still see cold air along the east coast, especially the northeast there. We see snowfall still happening for those mountainous areas. Even have a weaker low offshore. This is probably helping to really bring in a lot of this precipitation for these areas. And overall, what we're left with is a warming pattern for the central states with cold air. We call this a backdoor cold front. We saw a lot of these this previous year, I'd say the previous 12-month period. And we've continued to see them this fall. And now we're seeing it again popping up here for late November. So could continue to see that cold for upwards of 9 to 10 days, I would say, is what we're seeing on the models. I'll point that out later, but, at least 5 to 7 days, maybe even longer. And we continue to see that here for the 26th on Tuesday. Snowfall and cold air is trending in for the west, though, which historically is going to bring this warm air eastward over time as we approach the end of November timeframe. Let's take a look here at Wednesday on the 27th. And what we're seeing here is, again, snowfall and rainfall depending on your elevation or proximity to the coast out west. Very heavy snowfall as well for Oregon, California, even Washington, Idaho here, and down through Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado. Very strong low near the coast of Oregon. This is what's causing all of that action in the west. As we reach towards Thursday on the 28th, this is going to be Thanksgiving Day, by the way, and what we're likely seeing is this being the ending date for this big time cooldown. A little bit warmer here, a little bit nicer for all of those awesome festivities that you guys are going to be up to. So definitely a beautiful look, a lot less rain, a lot less storminess, no snow to deal with, at least from what we can tell right now in the east. So this would be overall great news for Thanksgiving. For the west, though, cooler with some rainfall for some areas and snowfall in the very high elevations. A little bit standard for them, so probably a little less impactful for them because they're used to it than opposed to the east. Hence, kind of the good news here. Things are returning to how they should be. For Friday, things get interesting. How I see it is there's more supercharged cold air again up here in Canada. And if we saw somehow a warm up out west here, this would likely ricochet straight down into the eastern states again and could even be a bigger cooldown than that initial one near the end of November, early December timeframe. But we see it on this model. Here's December 1st. This is a perfect example. We see it kind of move down, and then kind of glide around over Canada. So brutal cold for Canada, snowfall happening, but we see a little bit of a milder look. I'd say this is very close to normal for most areas in the central and eastern states, but not that brutal cold. It's not really able to move down, and we still have some cold and snow in the west, and that's probably what's blocking that cold from really being able to move down into the eastern states. Now, as we take a look at the total precipitation, we see a lot for the west. Washington, Oregon, California here, seeing high amounts. Northern Rockies, also the plains and Midwest here, we're seeing quite a bit. Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, and bits of the Southeast from that tropical storm. Again, probably not a literal tropical storm, but it's just a storm that is slightly tropical by that point, but likely a big rainmaker, as I mentioned. The land interaction down here has really helped. We will touch on that in a little bit. The anomalies kind of reflect what I've said here. The West is highly above average. The Plains, Midwest, and Great Lakes are as well. And then we have still very far below average for the Deep South, Southeast. And now that our coastal storm has moved out, the outlook here moving forward is still this eastern area is basically shut down, unfortunately, for those areas that really, really need it. Total snowfall, we see gargantuan amounts out west. We're talking feet, especially for the Cascades here in Nevada and Northern Rockies. We're talking 3, 4, 5 feet perhaps for those mountaintop locations. Other areas dealing with snowfall is going to be these northern plains, upper Midwest areas. Some of the Ohio Valley and Appalachian Mountain Range here in the east. This is, again, an area that we're a little less confident in, but the Climate Prediction Center is starting to hop on board with this, which is a promising sign. I would say these areas in the very mountainous regions of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast are the most likely, as opposed to these flatter Ohio Valley areas, but still there's a possibility there as well. So we're really, really watching this closely. Let's take a look here at the temperature anomalies, and we're warmer for now. Well, we're kind of cooler along the eastern seaboard. It's been very close to what we'd expect in December, more like, so like mid 50s here in Virginia, for instance, is our wintertime highs. We're seeing a warm up starting for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday here, even into midweek, Wednesday. But here's Thursday. This is when it comes in, the 21st. So Thursday the 21st here, brutal cold. Friday the 22nd, almost the same thing. Saturday the 23rd, that's day 3, almost the same thing. Day 4 here on Sunday, brutal cold air in the east. Monday on November 25th. Day 4 or 5 here. I don't even know. I'm losing count. Very cold still in the east. We're starting to see things cool out west, though, and that's going to end it before we know it. Wednesday on the 27th, still some cooler air. But again, Thanksgiving here, this is the look. Maybe some near normal air again for this area here. A little warmer for these northern plains, but a pretty nice day for Thanksgiving. And then we're left with kind of a warmer pattern across the states from coast to coast for kind of the very late November and a very early November or December timeframe, with some supercharged cold air right here that could either move down into the west, down into the east, or kind of swing around and not really impact the states whatsoever. As we take a look here at the tropics, we're taking a look here at Tropical Storm Sarah that has gone ahead and developed. But look at this. It's nearby Central America. It's going to move over the Yucatan Peninsula and then exit as kind of a post-tropical depression there. Not a very promising sign for strong tropical development. So I really don't feel like we're going to see too much come out of this at this point, thankfully. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. We do upload every single day, so be sure to subscribe for more daily weather videos. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.